energy. Santo Daime Church is all about energy, the force, bringing this force. So I don't think it's anything new necessarily. And they may even use psychedelics. Just Google image search Jesus and mushrooms, and you'll find some really cool paintings. Very old paintings. Yeah.
Did Jesus take mushrooms?
I didn't know him personally. I would hand him some if I saw him. But there's books on that. There's something like the cross and the sacred mushroom.
Sacred cross. I think it's sacred mushroom and the cross.
Sacred mushroom and the cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure,
I'm just going to look at a little cheat sheet here. Yeah, so after studying the mysteries, I also noticed spiritual cultures across the planet seem to be messaging the same thing, astonishingly so. And the symbols I found were the tree of life, the serpent, and the dove throughout cultures, lots in Christianity and Gnostic myths. And I think they have a secret alchemical process that they're hinting at through this for the evolution of consciousness and for healing. And I in the book I discuss this in quite a bit of detail of how there's actually like serpent energy, double helix serpents through the body. There's the Kundalini energy. There's this eagle dove energy that we integrate, and that these forces end up focusing very much on the heart center as the center of all of it. It's the bridal chamber, the final mixture of all these energetic forces and balancing them. And the Star of David and the Star Tetrahedron, maybe folks out there know the Star Tetrahedron. It's thought to be kind of like this, it's a Merkaba, it's like a vessel for transportation, like interdimensional travel. A lot of people think like even spaceships and things like that, like that's what they're using is this kind of technology. People call the Merkaba your own UFO. Like you can, and in the book I actually talk about this heart opening that I have that shows me this dimension of this beautiful lattice work of white light that interconnects us all. And it happens to me at Burning Man, and I just remember that Gospel Thomas line of heaven is spread across the earth, only people don't see it. And for a few minutes, I felt like I really saw it. You know, I got a glimpse of this thing. And it was interesting seeing this web of life, this beautiful lattice work of sacred geometry and love. And what I got was love isn't this hippy-dippy thing. It's a scientific vibrational reality. And it's complex and beautiful and powerful. It's the karma buster. It's the illusion buster. It forgives all things. And in this lattice work, I could see how we were all divine, like Shakespeare's essentially, creating the heroes and the villains, the temp workers and the corrupt CEOs, the whole thing. And I just started crying in this moment because I had been looking so long to find it. And then it hit me that I owed one man a thank you for bringing me on this journey. And that was George W. Bush. I wouldn't have gone on any of this if it wasn't for him.
So had a Democrat one,
It wouldn't have kicked me into...
He did it to me.
It wouldn't have kicked me into a new reality, that's sure. John Kerry, probably not. You know, having that cowboy in office definitely did. You know, and I sent him my love. Sent him love and some thanks.
He talks about all those thugs and hoodlums.
What's that?
That was always his line. Those thugs and hoodlums.
Those thugs.
Everyone was thugs. Those thugs and hoodlums.
The other.
We're gonna get those thugs and hoodlums. It was always his line.
Yeah.
and smoke them out.
Smoke them out.
And smoke them out.
John Kerry would have smoked them out.
I mean, I'm very controversial on this, but I think George W. Bush was a media master. He was so good at it. And I'm really frustrated with the I'm frustrated with Obama because I thought he was going to pull a Bush. I thought he was going to say, hey, I'm normal. And then, guess what? We're going to take this volunteerism and create this new world. You know, I'm going to use the same messaging that Bush did, but I'm going to transform. And he didn't do that. And I now feel like we're moving in. It's us. We've got to do it. This is why Occupy. We're rising up. Forget it. These guys, we can interact with them, but we need to create the new models. We need to create the new sustainable models, the new Earth that we know is there.
Character is the new currency.
Character?
Is the new currency.
I think. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I think we've always valued life on. As a species, we've created a lot of value through commerce and wealth and money, and now we know that about 49 companies own all of the world's wealth or control it.
Right, it's transnational.
But character sounds like human respect.
Well, I'm getting there.
That's-
I'm getting there. But so we know that
Maybe
that.
you could. I think you should speak louder so folks can hear. And maybe keep
This
it
is-
abbreviated.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
It sounds like
yeah,
it's
no,
going
I'm
to,
getting to. I've just thought that that's what we've always thought, that we've always served this. Anyway, we all know that really currency now is oil. That's the currency. It's not gold anymore. So that hasn't worked. That mechanism hasn't worked. That's the 49 companies. So now the new currency actually has to be character. We have to be people of worth, and our worth has to come from who we are and how we love each other and the earth, and that's my thought.
Yeah.
I like that phrase, characters.
The new
This is the new
currency.
currency.
I mean, for me, I hear character though. Like I know you're talking about this deeper character, but I still hear like
Bush saying,
we go at characters. Like people, oh, that guy's a character or something.
No,
But what you're coming to me is
no.
no. She means this internal character, and I
But
think
we are characters. I know there is a collective. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but we are individuals. We want our individual freedoms. That
So
we have
maybe the
evolved
word
to
is
that.
Authenticity. We need to be authentic.
Yeah.
that's
authentic
the,
character.
that's the energy healer
Sustainable
goal right
character.
there, is authenticity.
Sustainable.
But character
it's a
and
journey.
currency go together so nicely. The alliteration. I like it.
Is I feel like we need to be media shamans too. So like that kind of languaging. Like people are always like, Evolver, why do you guys have to make things so snazzy? And like, can't you write in a hippie language? We're like, no, because we have these advertising corporations that are doing psychic attacks on our culture. You're not good enough. Buy Snickers. Do the do. Yeah, do the do, and then get pancreatic cancer or whatever comes with that. So I think one of our roles is to create these new stories, these new images, create characters in a way too, through our authentic selves. I mean, I love Burning Man because the freak is on.
Yeah.
It's also with this connectedness. Gift economy, I think also when you're saying that, I think a lot of gift, like what's your gift? And we're in a culture that doesn't value your gifts. I remember when I got out of college and how fast I did Excel and Word were like the most important things, how fast I could type. That's like the job. We need your gifts right now. Like that's, I think the gift is also it. Is like, I look at you guys as like superheroes, and you each have these talents and abilities that need to really come out and shine. It's like Jesus said, you don't put it under a bushel, you put it where everyone can see it. And I think that'll create a real abundance for us. Right now, I think we are a culture energetically divided. We fight for resources, we fight for jobs, we fight for land, we fight for money, we fight, compete. Competition, we always hear how great competition is. And it can be good with guidelines that make it fun, but I don't think it's fun for anybody because we're in these hierarchical models. And I talk about this a lot in the book because in the end I'm looking at it from an energy healer perspective. And the way I see most of our societies is a parasitic, hierarchical, energetic system that takes all the energy and sucks it into a centralized node, most of it, leaving vast amounts of scarcity and suffering for most people. Buckminster Fuller, he says that all problems are design problems. I think that's interesting. Even in my personal journey, I'm finding it's a design problem. I'll be in ceremony and be like, oh, Jesus, this is so painful. Ayahuasca ceremony, diamond. And it's because the diamond is coming in and opening up my system. It's all these things that have been like that, it's getting an upgrade, right? Our systems are like, And what we're doing, I think, is now it's like a distributed model. These distributed networks. If you see how the distributed network works, like the diagram of it, it looks like sacred geometry. It's gorgeous. It creates abundance and flow. The gift economies do this. They flow with each other, and they create resilience to deal with shocks that come to us. They create abundance. They create generosity, communication, and most importantly, I think, creativity. You know, instead of just consuming, we get together and we create. We make beautiful things together. We create a night like these guys that Evolve Our Alien Project Butterfly created. So, you know, this is part of the healing project that I talk about in the book, in Transformation of Earth. I think, well, I'm going to ask a question here, which is, who here is going through some type of healing or initiatory journey? Really raise your hands up for this one. Okay, and now I'd like you to just hold still with this for a second, and look at your brothers and sisters in the room, and just look them in the eye, acknowledge them. This is very powerful. If I went to the nearby Walmart, which I hope is very far away, I say this is it, and if I got on the mic and said, excuse me, Walmart shoppers, who here is having some type of initiatory process? Meet at aisle 3.
It's insecurity.
So how many people are going to drop their Crisco, their bottle of Crisco or whatever, and be like, hey, me? Maybe not. I feel like you guys are the pioneers of a new way. I believe that yogis are right, that we're in this third chakra, center of existence right now, and civilization has been that for about 10,000 years. I kind of see the birth of civilization as a traumatic event but also a maturation process. If you look at the Bible story with Adam and Eve, it's a tribal model of existence. They're living amongst nature in this abundance with God. And then there's this exile, this horrible exile. And what happens in the next chapter? Cain and Abel are domesticating crops and domesticating animals and growing crops. And we have our first act of Western violence. I see this thought virus of original sin, shame, blame, you're guilty for being alive. You didn't even do a thing. No matter how hard you try, God's not going to like you. Patriarchy, linear time, destroying nature. It's like this traumatic wound that has spread across the planet with this third chakra, egoic kind of thing. And it's taking the judgment out. It's a journey. But now I feel like those fires of the third chakra are pushing us up into the heart center. And it's quite literally a different vibrational reality. The heart is so powerful, as I was saying. It heals things that are unhealable. In the Santo Daime church that I'm in, they're always talking about opening the heart. And they actually work on illuminating demons. And I've seen it, I've seen them do it. Because it's about great compassion and forgiveness. And I feel like we are here to illuminate our lives, illuminate our family lines, illuminate our world. But you guys are the pioneers, and it's tough work. Creating that first cosmic groove, those early cosmic grooves, is really tough soul work to do. And I just want to honor you guys that are on that path. The way the family trees work, and we're at the ends of these family trees that go back generations, is the pollution here moves down through the sap of those trees and the branches to where we're at the very end. But we can heal that so the next branches bloom, And I know some of you probably had really tough childhoods and stuff. Really tough things to fix. It's not about fixing, I don't think. There's this really bad healer joke. Most of them are kind of dark, I find, healer jokes. What does a healer call a messed up childhood? Initiation. Initiation.
That's funny.
So, we're being initiated into a higher consciousness. And I think this is what is happening, is people are awakening. I see this through Evolver in my book all the time. We're getting emails. Oh my God, I'm in Arkansas and I'm having this Kundalini awakening. I'm talking to these galactic beings. Am I crazy? You know, we get this every day. And this is why we're trying to create these spaces with the Evolver Network. You know, Project Butterfly is doing this. You know, Suzanne's getting her movie out. We're creating containers because they don't exist. We don't have the old mystery schools. We do have some. The yoga's coming back. Buddhism, you know, coming back. It's 20 million people in the U.S. doing it. So we're reintegrating, we're bringing back these mystery schools. And in the Christian tradition, I'm really excited about the Santo Daime Church bringing back the Christian tradition. Like, it took me 2 years of puking out my Jesus issues to finally be like, oh wow, they're actually really singing about heaven and divine healing. Divine healing. Now that's something incredible and beyond most people's egoic perception. Like, I feel like if we try to fix the earth, we're screwed. Like, politically, environmentally, medically, the health system, we're just screwed. If we just try to fix it. I think what we're talking about, this is the paradigm shift of opening the heart. And the fantastic alchemy of opening the heart is you open up all this help of above. Spirit suddenly comes into matter. The guides come in. I believe we're becoming good mediums. And that's our work here, is to become mediums. We can do a lot of the work, but we also need help. You know, every healer I know, they're using plant medicines, they're using this, they're using that, and they're using guidance. Guidance is very important in this process. I wouldn't have seen energy fields without guidance. Yeah, so do folks have any thoughts on this? I mean, yeah.
Do you have any advice when a person's been having these initiatory experiences and it's been all wonderful, but then all of a sudden some of the things that they're channeling all of a sudden become really dark and overwhelming? Like, I mean, I myself just had that, and I just had to shut everything down. I had to stop meditating for months, and I don't even know what it was. And ironically, I work as a psychologist, and one of my clients, who doesn't meet any of the other criterion for schizophrenia except for the fact that he has all these massive downloads, he was having some of the same experiences I was having. I couldn't tell him, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I had this exact same thing. It would have like crossed some professional boundary, but I mean, that stuff is happening to people, and
Yeah.
there's a really dark and maybe even dangerous side to it. I'm not sure what to do with.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a dark and dangerous world and a light world as well. We're about holding those polarities, you know.
Can I share with that, or you know?
I'd actually like to add something to
please.
that, because this is something, the darkness. This journey was very fun. And then my next book is, I've only started talking about this about 5 days ago in public. And I just felt like now it's time. I wasn't shown the dark stuff that I was healing from my family lines. And 2.5 years ago, this is my next book, it's all about this. My guides finally on mushrooms showed me what had been causing my depression, my panic attacks, my anger, and suicidal thoughts my whole life. And it was an ancestral demon, parasitic astral attachment. We don't even have languaging for this in this. I mean, how many medications would I be on for bipolar, depression, you know, all these things, right? It's a demon. Whoa. How do you deal with that? And of course I thought, oh, I've done ayahuasca, I'll just do a couple ceremonies and get this thing out. Like, you know, 100 ceremonies later, he's finally illuminating through the work of the Santo Daime. And the Santo Daime, like, mystery schools are very important because they understand more than we do. You know, they have the knowledge of these divine beings helping us. In this mystery school in particular, if I can just share the history, I think it's really fascinating. There was, because, you know, I think it's an upgrade of spiritual technology. If you look at the Gnostics, they had these archons that controlled our world. Mm-hmm. And the way to get through the archons was to just transcend them, go past them. Find your divine light and leave them alone.
Who are the Gnostics and what are archons?
Oh my gosh. Okay, but the Gnostics were early Christian. I think all early Christians were about Gnosis for the most part. But Gnostics, in the academic sense, there's certain sects that had a certain cosmology that involved these things called the archons, which are these like ruling forces of the material world that hold us in illusion. The Gnostics would say we're lost in forgetfulness, drunkenness, sleep. It's like The Matrix, really. The Matrix is a total Gnostic movie. Google Matrix and Gnostic, and you'll get a whole philosophy on how this is. It's pretty cool. Except instead of robots, it's these archons. So, in early technology, the Gnostics did that, and in the New Testament, Jesus is casting out demons, right? Well, along comes the Santo Daime, and there's this guy, Padrino Sebastião, and he actually gets, there's a sorcerer that comes to town, and he's possessed by a demonic entity. But this entity named Trunkarua, he wants to heal, he wants to illuminate. And so he goes there, and the sorcerer starts drinking, but he dies. And so this entity possesses Sebastião, and it was this huge battle because Sebastião was bedridden. He was puking up blood in ceremonies from this being. But after about a 9-month struggle, this being illuminated and became a light being. And he said, I'm illuminating, but I want you to help my brothers and sisters, my lost brothers and sisters of the darkness. And that's when they created what are called the Star Works and the Cura House, the healing house. And that's where the Santo Daime began learning mediumship, to work with dark entities and illuminate them from the line, to heal the family, ancestral stuff, the past life stuff. Very powerful, right? I mean, and they call it the Great Reunion. And they're always talking about uniting the negative and the positive for the illumination. So, I mean, you're saying this stuff, and it's like, I think we need real serious training. That's what we need. Like, we're in a society that doesn't even acknowledge spirit exists. So because of that, we're not even playing with half a deck. We're playing with a tiny, tiny part of the deck, like the iceberg of that deck. And I think that's what we're waking up to. And at first, it can be really beautiful, and then it can be totally freaky. There's actually a Gnostic line of this. Like, at first you wake up and it's kind of marvelous, and then it's terrifying. And then it says, and then you rule over all. It's weird. The word dominate is coming into my mind for this, but it's not the kind of dominate that you think. It's like coming into your power and dominion.
It's naming.
Your centered self. Yeah.
In the 70s, there was a very famous Tibetan Buddhist Lama named Trungpa Rinpoche, who came through LA, who I had the privilege of hearing him speak. And he said that until one reaches a state of total hopelessness, they can't really seriously begin the spiritual path. So keep that in mind.
I think we're coming to a culture.
Isn't that the movie about him, Crazy Wisdom? It's a wonderful
Crazy
movie.
Wisdom, yeah.
Wonderful documentary.
And I think that's what we're seeing is the whole financial system is. I'm pretty confident it's going to collapse. We are $12 trillion in debt. So what's going to happen with this? And it's energy, right? The money's the energy. Like, I think we're in an energy revolution right now. Dylan, are you raising your hand?
No.
Just chilling out? So I'd like to switch it up a little bit, because we can do a little more Q&A, but I think it'd be a good time to talk about aliens. Yeah. I didn't put this in the book, in this mystical, crazy journey, because I was too afraid to put it in, until Daniel Pinchbeck said, this is an unpublishable in its current form, after it had been picked up by North Atlantic Books for the Evolved Editions. It's like, thanks, Daniel. And he just said, you're not being honest. You have to put everything in. You have to put the messiness, you have to put honesty about your relationships, what worked, what didn't, your character, your friends. And when I realized that, I was like, oh shit, I have to also mention the aliens. I'm going to be really honest, because as much as I didn't want to admit it, the entire guidance of this book is seemingly coming from galactic communion, connection, with some spirit guides that are very prankstery and laughing and giggling like Dalai Lamas and stuff. But it's through a journey of them helping me in an unfolding process. And it's a very irritating one on some levels. I feel like guidance we're given it often on a need-to-know basis. Right? You don't get the whole picture, you get this little bit, and it's like, I want this much, I want to, get that little bit and that little bit. And, there's a surprising connection between Jesus and, UFOs and aliens. I'm very interested in the Axial Age, which was this time period from, 800 BC to 0, or to birth of Christ. And there were these spiritual avatars on the planet in different geographic locations that taught the same energetic teaching, the golden rule, love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Which is a really tricky one, because you think, oh, I just love my neighbor. Oh, wait, I've got to love myself. And that lets me love my neighbor, and vice versa. Love, 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 love. And I kind of look at these axial ages like the first celestial marines on the planet, spiritual marines, or cosmic implants, mythological, whatever. But they brought this light that we're now carrying and learning and spreading with this consciousness. Also, just Google Jesus UFO images, and it's a treat. Paintings. You'll find tons of medieval and Renaissance paintings with Jesus in the baptism in a big UFO with portholes beaming him up. Mary in the conception, UFO outside and a light going into her womb. Jesus in the resurrection, and on his right and left are two UFOs with someone actually driving it, it's flying through the skies. There's tons of this, and I think, a modern version of this would be Alex Gray's Cosmic Christ painting, which I talk about in detail. Alex actually loved this book and did a blurb for it, but it's got all sorts of alien stuff and that as well. So it looks like the old Renaissance paintings, though, just an upgrade from it. So anyways, if we're coming out of the galactic closet here, and it's funny, people can take spirituality and consciousness, but when you drop the A-bomb, but we're in LA. Seems like this would be a good place to read an alien story, right? There we go. This is at Burning Man. The title of this chapter is called The First Extraterrestrial City on Earth. At the roaring burn barrel outside center camp, we ran into two friends of Jade's, Dawn and Sarah. Sarah crouched on her knees wearing an Uncle Sam hat, attaching pads to the end of her fire poi chains in preparation for a fire dance. She looked up at us and cheered. "Johnny, every time I see you, it brings out my shaman side." In that second, her smile flickered into a sideways slit, her head transformed into a giant gray scalp, her eyes stretched diagonally into wide black alien eyes, and her nose shrank to two narrow pinpoints. Sarah had just revealed herself to be one of the gray aliens I read so many negative things about while researching the Draco reptilians. Okay, so that's a whole rabbit hole that some of you may have followed, but in the book I get into that. So instead of being freaked out, however, I took it all in without a pause. One more piece of initiatory information on the wild side I was now walking. It didn't hurt that she looked friendly and, frankly, kind of sexy. "Look who's talking," I said back to her. Dawn gave Jade a warm hug, and she nuzzled close to him. I always felt a tinge of jealousy about their friendship, even though Dawn and Sarah were married. Dawn had a lot of qualities that Jade admired, including frat boy humor, a slightly macho attitude. He had co-founded an online advertising company worth $850 million, owned his own brownstone in Park Slope, and although slightly balding, he was tall, muscular, and Jewish, which would make her family happy. Dawn didn't appear to be wearing a playa costume. He didn't need to. He made enough of a presence in a simple tan coat and blue jeans. I returned my gaze to Sarah and heard the familiar voices giggle. These are my galactic guides. "See? Not all aliens are ugly," they said. Dawn caught this and he turned his gaze up, and I giggled with him. Dawn caught this and he turned his gaze up to the stars, and then back on me. He leaned in so close I could feel his breath. "You're up there now, aren't you?" He grinned. "I can tell, but don't worry. You'll ground when the sun comes up." "How do you know?" I asked. "Oh, Sarah and I have our own ET connections. When we first met at Burning Man a couple years ago, we ate some fungi on a golden vibrating art pyramid, and she literally took off her face and showed me the sexy gray alien she is underneath." Should I reveal to Dawn what I'd just seen? I decided it wasn't the time. "That's incredible," I said, "but aren't the grays bad?" Most, but not all. Aliens are like people. Everyone is different, and you can't judge solely by race. Hell, even the Lizzies are helping out these days. Sarah lit her poi and began spinning the chains. She was new to fire spinning and struggled at it. Uninterested in our conversation, Jade walked over to hold a fireproof safety blanket for her. "How do you know about the Lizzies?" I asked Dawn. I was surprised he knew the Palladian nickname for the reptilian aliens. I was also amazed that Jade and I just happened to bump into her two friends who claimed to have ET connections. Was it chance or one of those playa synchronicities? While in bed after that first date with Sarah, Dawn told me, my spirit was taken up to a mother ship with huge windows overlooking the earth. I saw thousands of saucers beaming down indigo lights of intention to help the planet ascend. But there were a few ships, some reptilian I was told, that beamed down negative energies. My ship was full of a bizarre and entertaining creatures, a carnivalesque federation of sorts. They told me they had brought me here because I could, quote-unquote, handle it. You know, it's funny, he said. People have this tinfoil spacesuits, 1950s ideas of aliens, but the beings I saw were galactic bohemians, David Bowie-like art stars, flamboyantly androgynous healers, and outrageous alchemists. A lot of them had really cool tattoos. They come from advanced societies that have synthesized art and science, so they know how to have a good time. I think a Burning Man is the first extraterrestrial city on Earth. It completely integrates technology and visionary art with neo-tribal ritual. I figure most people attending came from other planets originally. They just don't realize it yet. The playa is a portal preparing us for the cosmic dance party everyone's waiting for. At that moment, a man wearing a black duster and a fedora stepped up to us at the burn barrel. He seemed upset. Head drooped. He took off his leather gloves to warm his hands. "Are you okay?" I asked him. He lifted the brim of the fedora, revealing cracked red skin around his eyes. He was in his mid-20s with a thick Greek-looking unibrow, round chipmunk cheeks, and dark stubble on his chin. "New Orleans is gone, man," he said with a southern drawl, his eyes on the flames. "My house was wiped out. Katrina took down most of the whole city. People are dying in the streets, mostly blacks. Bush won't do a damn thing. Thousands are holed up in the Superdome and abandoned in flooded prisons right now, left to rot. It's totally third world. I just can't believe this is America." "I'm so sorry," I said. He tried to hold back tears. I put my arm around him for several minutes. Then he tipped his hat, said thanks, and walked away. I couldn't tell what was more surreal. My alien introductions, or the fact that the birthplace of jazz was underwater. It all felt like pieces of the new normal. I reported the news to Sarah, Dawn, and Jade. Isolated in the never land of Burning Man, where cell phones don't work and there's no email, we hadn't heard what was happening off the playa in the default world. "This is only the beginning," Dawn said. "America is broke, $12 trillion in debt. Saving New Orleans would cost too much unless we radically switch priorities from armaments to people. With each coming catastrophe from global warming, corporate entities are going to use the shock doctrine to take control of traumatized populations. Get ready," he said. "The fight for the planet is on." Yeah. That's a little taste of the book there. I shared just a story. About a year after that, Dawn and Sarah were at our apartment having dinner, and they're talking about sort of alien stuff, and I finally say, "You know what, Dawn? I saw." I call her Sarah in the book. I sometimes forget what name I give her in the book. Sarah, I saw her shapeshift into an alien at Burning Man last year. And he's like, "Oh, really? Honey, draw him a picture." So she gets out pen and paper, and she draws me a picture of exactly what I had seen, with a little Aliens Heart NYC next to it.
That was non-entheo?
Slightly entheo. A little bit of mushrooms, just a tiny bit, though. It was the sparkly dose.
Yes.
The sparkly dose. That's my favorite around Burning Man. Yeah. I mean, mushrooms seem pretty galactic anyways. McKenna has, volumes on that.
Should you make a distinction between herbal or psychedelics that come from the earth versus chemical? And do you think that one is less safe than the other?
I don't know. I'm in a journey right now where all I do is the daime, because I'm so deep in a mystery school that I can't. The psychedelic Wild West days are over for a while for me, but I think they can open portals. I've seen DMT open people's lives, but I get worried about them too. I get worried about people doing ayahuasca. I think it's also important, just as these. I've talked a lot about this, but in the end, I become a Sufi. I go to Saluk Academy to get trained to be in the world. I get trained in energy healing. Like, I feel like those are really important if you're going to do these things. Yeah, I probably lean a little more to, whatever. Like, I want to say, yeah, maybe it's better from the earth, but Datura, I don't trust Datura at all. That's known to be a pretty...
What is that?
It's someone else is going to know better than me what Datura is.
Like as in detour?
Datura. It's a... Do you want to...
It's a nightshade. It's a poison. The poison in effect is very dissociative, and it's mild hallucinogen, right? So there's an energetic form to it. It's like, as he describes, it's not about synthetic or organic. It's about energetic, communion. Like, so certain people have certain connections to different things. Like a roadman once told me, the roadmen are the people who are given the sacred right to hold the peyote for the people, so they can do ceremony. And there's a roadman who spoke to me once, and he said, each tribe is given a different medicine, and that for each person that there could be a specific medicine that could help them the most. He's like, for me, it's tobacco. I don't even do peyote. I hold it, but the tobacco is what's sacred for me. And I think the daime, in each tribe. So I don't want to hold too much
resonates
time.
with you, and what's great is we get to pick what our tribes are now.
I think that's a really important point. We come to a point where we're so interconnected as a people, as a species, as a kind of the pendulum effect, that we do get to have choice. Like, I'm white, and but I have a touch of Native American blood in me, and like I have a touch of these other experiences, and energetically I could be whatever I choose to be, So I think that's valid.
Yeah. I feel really blessed that, like, I would have died if we didn't have all these modalities. It's a miracle I'm here. And I almost, either I would have died or I would have been locked up. And it was only thanks to yoga, health, daime, all of these, like, mixture of these things, integrating it all, that, I'm here today having an awesome time with all of you guys. So I feel really blessed for this time.
Don't you feel a need to dispense with them, though?
Dispense with what?
The aphrodisiacs.
Once you get the message, hang up the phone.
Oh, first, yeah. Once you get the message, sorry. I think that works for some things, like MDMA. I'll probably never go back to.
Is that ecstasy?
One of the components.
Until it's the right moment of Burning Man. But I get this a lot. Have you done ayahuasca?
No.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I only get this from folks that haven't done ayahuasca. It's like, I know yogis that were like, yeah, why do you do this thing? And it poisons your body. And then they do ayahuasca and they're like, oh, whoa. It's got the pedal to the metal. It's accelerated evolution. I do yoga, I do meditation to support the daime. For me, the daime is a mystery school. It's not about you do it once. You go deeper and deeper and deeper, and the mysteries unreal. They reveal themselves the more you go in. I'm a baby. I'm in 2.5 years into this. I see people that are 20 years into it, and they are literally channeling in angels to heal people. That's like going... So I'm more interested in going deeper. But, yeah, sometimes you gotta hang up the phone, especially if you're ungrounded.
My wife does that, and she's never had any of this stuff.
Never had what?
Any drugs. She channels in angels for healing.
Yeah, there's tons of people. I'm not that way. I live in New York City. I need to get back to my plant medicine, but everyone's got their own unique trip. Like, I feel like these questions are always asked, but you guys know best.
I think it's different roads to the same place. Meditation, yoga, psychedelics, whatever. We're all trying to reach the same place, and whatever takes you there doesn't matter as long as you do it responsibly, I guess, or you have someone to guide you through the journey to get to where you're going.
Yeah, I've seen this great picture of, like, the worldwide religions, and it's like you'll have Christianity over here and Islam here, and it goes inward. The mystics go deeper in. They end up having more in common than, like, a Christian here and a Christian here, because we're all seeing the same thing. It's all going to that point.
Right.
Yeah. But I think having a school is really important.
Yes.
Having training. The people I've seen go deepest are the ones that didn't just try to do it themselves. And this is what the Gnostics did. They had people that had marked this territory, and then it's like one hand forward, one hand back. They keep going that way and to keep helping those. Yeah. I think, just to clarify, I think we're in the Q&A section. And you guys, Jill, do you have do we have a time frame on this? Or?
Well, are there more questions?
I can speak on that gentleman's question. I have some perspective. So from experiences that I've dealt with, what I find is that synthetics, first I want to say that all the medicines that are on this planet are here for a reason. And whether it's a positive or negative reason to teach us, to grow us, to challenge us, to come out of whatever lessons they are to share, they're here for a purpose. What I find is that natural medicines, natural entheogens tend to carry their own spirit, their own energy, kind of their own wisdom, whereas pharmacologically activated synthetic entheogens really, they hit all the right channels to open up doors and windows. And I feel that we're at such an evolutionarily important time on this planet that these are tools that are able to open up doors. And they all have their own purpose. And whether to say is a natural medicine better than a synthetic medicine, they all have different energies, and it depends what place a person is at their point of life. I find that natural medicines tend to have their own information that they choose to share with people, and whereas synthetic medicines, it's best to come into an opportunity with an intention so that you can create your experience instead of just go into this pharmacologically activated zone. You get to kind of create the portal and share your intentions, and that's where the power and the magic can come from the synthetics, whereas I feel the natural medicines, you still set your intentions and there's lots of informations and direction that it's going to take. So to answer your question, I don't think there's such thing as bad or worse or good. I think it's in the eye of the beholder. They're all tools. They all have different purposes and their own dangers.
Okay, thank you. You know, as you're saying that, you're saying all these planets, all these planets. It occurred to me that we're on consciousness-altering substances all the time. Like, who had coffee today, right? Who had sugar today? Like, it's just...
Who breathes outside?
What's that?
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
The level of oxygen.
Oxygen. You had ginger. All these things are consciousness altering, and we have a relationship with this. And because we live in this deadened world, we forget, like, wow, the spinach, you know, I love you are what you eat. The cliche is so freaking true. You know? It's even including if you're like watching a Jim Carrey movie. It's something you're ingesting into your energetic system.
More questions?
Well, I have a theme that keeps popping up, and it's been pretty consistent the last while. I want to say, months, but really strongly recently, which is this distinction between, can you do all the work with intention, with prayer, with energy, and have all the result that wants to have happen, or is there a necessary component that's in the physical world? It's your feet on the ground. Like I was listening to something about the monetary system. And I look at the monetary system and I say, this obviously has to be changed. And we actually should do something about it, not just pray about it, but actually do something about it. And so I keep having this interesting whole sets of conversations with people all over my life that have very, very powerful feelings about it. Like the transcendental meditationists who are like, no, you get 7,000 people together, you pray, and everything changes. Yeah. And the violence goes down, and and this is what happens. You don't need to go out and get on the ground and protest, or go out on the ground and create new monetary systems. And I'm like, I don't know.
Oh wait, I love this question because this is like one of the quintessential questions in my books. And you asked an either/or question, right?
Well,
is it this? It's kind of like, is it this or that? And I'm like,
That's right.
It's both and. And so one person's like, well, it's both this and that. And I find Jesus a very interesting figure in this because he's a spiritual, mystical activist. He's a badass. He doesn't just like go heal people and show them the higher states of the kingdom of heaven. He goes into the temple and overturns tables. And I feel like the planet Earth is our temple, it's our holy temple, and we need to overturn these financial tables. But also, gosh, you were talking about Occupy and like the anger in Occupy and this. It's like we need to bring the consciousness in there too. And I do see it happening. I know in New York we have meditation flash mobs that we've done with Occupy. We've done healing circles with them. There's a consciousness committee. In 2004 when I was doing activism, oh man, you would have had anarchists spit on you for that stuff. So I feel like it's changing, and there's something more shamanic going on. When I was at Zuccotti Park last time hanging out with people, I heard ayahuasca mentioned like 3 times. I was like, what is going on here? And this is something I've realized too, and I had to come to terms with it because I've always felt a little uneasy about psychedelics in Evolver. And after traveling the network and pretty much finding out, well, every sporganizer I've met almost, not all, has been activated by entheogenic experiences. I suddenly realized that psychedelics are and have been one of the most revolutionary parts of altering the world and ourselves. You know, it's just a evolutionary thing. I love that question. Maybe you guys could tell, like, maybe LA, this would be a great time just to share what we're doing in Evolver now, as we feel like you guys, you're doing like a clothing swap, right?
We are. On February 25th, we're doing a clothing swap, which I think are happening a lot around the country. And but the intention behind this is not just to kind of get new clothes. But there's, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but textile waste, which is ending up in landfill, is outrageous. I mean, we're so conditioned to be buying new stuff. I mean, you're talking about like do and you know, some of these like marketing gimmicks like just really excite us about this throwaway culture, which is, you know, I mean, we're all guilty of it. We all go shopping, but I think if we have more of these experiences, these communal gatherings, that we're open to these new possibilities. And another reason we're doing it is a little bit differently than other clothing swaps, where we're going to circle up at the end, and things that you might have grabbed impulsively that you realize, okay, this doesn't work for me, this doesn't look good. You know, you can kind of find somebody in the group that it might be better suited for, and that kind of like is just, you know, I mean, if you think way back of how we were making clothes for each other. I have this bag that I got in Colombia that was woven by the Kogi tribe, and they're weaving the story of the universe into this bag. I mean, textiles and clothing have just, you know, really important history, and we're just so conditioned to throw it away. So we're trying to kind of create a new story about apparel and what it means. It's kind of a short, long answer.
Thank you, Jill. And it kind of brings up, I'd like to just share because what my job is, like one of the coolest jobs ever. It's to help coordinate the sporganizers, but it's a mycelial network. It's in the name spore. So they coordinate us. We learn from each other, and it's this amazing feedback loop where we keep improving and tweaking, and we're literally creating these communities. I mean, look at this. I'm a first-time author with a small publisher. We have a pretty nice room of people here. This is only because of you guys' work. We have had packed houses throughout the West Coast. So we're creating these spaces, these new containers for these ideas to come through. Charles Eisenstein, this writer of Sacred Economics, he's just beautiful. I don't know if you guys checked out his work. He's been traveling the network as well, connecting a lot with the Occupy folks. In Evolver, something we've realized is, we really want to share our passions, our resources, and our energy. And it's a model of, our tagline is find the others, you know, and we're finding the others very quickly now. I'm very thankful for Occupy because I feel like they're handling a lot of the heavy load that we wanted to do, political stuff in this. We are putting our focus a little more into consciousness with film screenings. I would still love to do more film screenings on What on Earth. We should talk more about that because, I mean, Aliens is one of our big, you know, people love it. What on Earth, I Am, Wake Up, DMT the Spirit Molecule, 2012 Time for Change. You guys just were media sponsors for Electronic Awakening, right? Is that right?
They haven't done their screening.
Oh, they haven't done it yet.
But yeah, we were talking about bringing that to
Yeah, well, I met Julian, the director at the SF Spore, and he had done it with Vancouver and had a huge turnout. So he's an independent film guy and very thankful. So we're creating. We kind of see our angle as being culture and consciousness with some political stuff mixed in, and I think we're hitting a real sweet spot with that. That said, if you guys in LA, you guys are really good at the activism too. You've done community foresting. What are some of the other actions you guys have taken?
Well, biggest action, if I may, yes, we've done work with tree people. Is everybody familiar with tree people? Yeah. Just helping the watering of trees that have been planted. Everybody likes to plant a tree because it's a great photo op and it's really fun, and you do it really fast. You're like, I planted a tree. The thing is, these trees need 5 years before they can adapt, before they can, like us as children, we're little blobs and we need to be caretaken. So it's this idea of going and doing the work that needs to be done, whatever it may be. Tree people is a nice partnership. The idea that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. These wonderful groups and wonderful people have been holding energy for a long time. We can just bring awareness and support. What Jonathan talks about was consciousness. What we've been talking about a little bit this evening about altering that consciousness, it's about your attention, what you put your energy on. Yeah. So we're trying to do as many things as we can to give options for where to put your attention, which is your sovereignty, which is your ability to make choices and decide on what kind of world you want to live in, despite we live in a bigger world. But like we've been able to do with the biggest activism, I think you mentioned it, support. Waking up in the morning could be a pain in the ass, especially if you have a hangover. A lot of us have amnesia and have a hangover, so when you wake up, it's like, you know what I mean? And to have someone there to lean on, to have someone be like, you're on Earth, and, welcome back. Or just to have these evenings, to share beauty of music, beauty of storytelling, and to share truth, conversation. This is kind of the activism that we see is best, and by doing that as artists, because... go ahead.
Yeah, Baz, I just think you bring up such a huge point. I think Jill's is the synchronicities amongst the network, the magic that we've been seeing. The word magic just comes up constantly, and I finally before this, how many people had heard of Evolver Reality Sandwich before tonight's event? Let's just see some hands, because I mean this is such a joy to me, and it's a lot because of your guys' work. I know it, but it started off with 4 dudes in Daniel's apartment. It's this spreading, and what I've seen traveling the network for the first time across the whole West Coast is all the connections we've helped make, the relationships. I mean, actual relationships. There are babies in this world now because of Evolver. There are people that I know. This guy that because of Evolver, he went to the Amazon and healed his lifetime-long depression. We're just making these connections, and they just keep growing. This is part of the abundance and magic of, I think, this new heart-based frequency. Galactic, funky, fairy culture we're talking about. Jill, did you want to answer?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to just chime in on what Bazo was saying and what you're talking about culture, and I feel like one of the biggest things, one of the reasons that we were so excited to have Dylan and Miranda and Sunny is art and expression, I think are so vital and often so overlooked. It's like, because there's so much to change and we have to change so much and occupy. There's a lot to be frustrated about, but if we're not feeling good about our space and we're not feeling inspired, and how can we really play any role? And for me, one of those great tools is music. I don't play it except the iPod, which I crave, but I think it is definitely one of the most important tools of our time, and other art, different art forms obviously as well, but I just don't, I feel like that often gets overlooked. And
Unveiling the 4th dimension. Yeah.
It's like, it's up there, so
It's
make more art.
It's so important, Jill. I'm glad you said it. I mean, play is important. I think this is part of ascension instead of getting stuck. Synchronicities also get you out of being stuck. They're like a key. But I've been looking a lot about how powerful art is in seeing the world differently. If you look at the 60s, I just did some tie-dyes for somebody, and I was a little bit like, oh god, tie-dyes is so 60s, right? Really? You want to put that in your ayahuasca dome? Because, now it's upgraded to something new. Like, we're upgrading. The first time I saw LED lights, I was like, whoa, at Burning Man and the art. I had never seen light look like that before. The chakras kind of look like that, very bright. There's a whole artistic culture that we want to support and raise, and I just think that's such a good element. I also feel like it's a battle for positivity. It's a fight. to fight with the daimyo says love and firmness, and part of that love and firmness is play, which is open gym. So we do a lot of consciousness parties and things like that as well. I kind of want to put it out here because I'm here, and it's not often I get here. I know the LA crew of Aaron and Baz and Jill, they're looking for more folks like to organize. It's a kind of a open thing where it's your guys' baby and you get to create what you want. And we find discounts and we help, but if there are folks that would like to help, and they have a great new office at the Sugar Shack, so it's lots of fun. It's better than our office in New York City. So if anyone wants to help, raise your hands. Let's just see. And awesome. So please just talk to Jill after a talk, and she'll get your information. You guys can get together and have a powwow on what you want to do.
So maybe we have time for like 2 more questions, and then Dylan is going to play and Sunny and Miranda are going to give us some more music. Does that sound good?
Yeah.